welcome to First Things First. I'm Jenna Wolf. That's the Hall of Famer Chris Carter. This is Nick Wright, and welcome to spring, everyone. Today is day one, and we know that because tomorrow there's supposed to be snow once again in the Northeast.
See, I jinxed us a little bit on the weather in New York. We were walking. It was a few days before Thanksgiving. I was like, you know what? Winter might just miss New York this year. I was wrong. Just came
so you
had a
take that didn't quite land?
Didn't quite pan out. Didn't quite pan out. Not quite what I expected in mid-March.
But you're dressed the part. I'm dressed the part. You're dressed the part.
All of us.
Good
First
to go.
day of spring.
Yep. Anything you want to add to the as our Doppler
let's
weather
get to
guy?
the sports.
Fun fact, LeBron James has been alive for 12,133 days. Of those days, he's been the best basketball player in the league, just under 12,133 days. Here's proof. Last night, in what could have been a trap game against a hungry Bucks team, he scored 40 points, grabbed 12 boards, dished 10 assists, and caused 4 in-game tweets from Nick Wright. Cavs beat the Bucks in a game where Kevin Love returned and added 18 points. Chris Carter, you wanted to dive in. We'll start with you. How impressed were you with LeBron last night?
I'm more impressed than the weather in New York City. LeBron, it's just an ongoing thing. How impressed? I can't say I was even more impressed last night because this is where he's at. Like, this is what I expect to see from him. When they traded Kyrie Irving, and with all the injuries, and then the second trade before the trade deadline, this is what LeBron's got to do. Now, I'm more surprised that his body has been able to hold up, that he's been consistent the way he has been the last 30 days. So I wouldn't say I'm impressed with LeBron. It's been it's been a continuum of what we've been talking about. His overall ability to be able to play at this level, at this age, it's astonishing. But it just didn't happen because of last night. Last night was just, they got another player back in Kevin Love, which is able to spread the court, which makes it a lot easier for LeBron. But he's starting to find what he needs to do with this team. This is not a very talented team. They are not going to win unless LeBron plays like this. It's almost like when LeBron was in the finals with the Cavs.
In 07.
Or any of the finals with the Cavs.
Oh, okay.
Like, they will not win unless he plays this way. And in some of those cases, they didn't win anyway against Golden State. But this is how LeBron has to play for them to be able to win. I would say if I'm impressed by something, I'm impressed by the way he's taken the initiative offensively. LeBron is a pass-first ball player. He's probably, of the greatest players in the world all time, he's probably the most unselfish, him and Magic Johnson, of those two. So it's not his natural thing to say, I'm going to score. And sometimes I have a problem with that because he doesn't have the productivity there. He needs to score, and sometimes he defers to the other player. So I'm more impressed with his ability offensively to take the initiative. I'm not impressed with his rebounding, not impressed with his assists because this is what LeBron has done. But his overall scoring and taking that initiative, I think is very, very important for him. And I believe that's helped elevate his game to a new level.
The reason yesterday was a particularly special performance in this stretch of unbelievable basketball by LeBron James. In February, he averaged a triple-double for the first time in his career for a month. This month, he is a couple assists away from averaging a triple-double. He's averaging 9.2 assists per game for this month, so he might do it in consecutive months. We saw how great he was in his last game out. The reason this one stands out is the circumstances surrounding it. You mentioned Kevin Love coming back. Kevin Love got injured before the trade deadline. So Kevin Love never played a game with George Hill, never played a game with Jordan Clarkson, never played a game with those two guys that played big minutes yesterday. Obviously, Rodney Hood and Larry Nance, the other guys they acquired, are out injured. But also the news yesterday about Ty Lue. The news yesterday where the head coach of the Cavs is going to take a leave of absence dealing with illness. And then also the opponent. A team they are likely to play in the first, I shouldn't say likely, but possible they play in the first round of the playoffs. Right now, the Bucks are the 7th seed, but easily could become the 6th seed. So it's who you're playing, it's the circumstances of the day, and it's the overwhelming performance. The third oldest player ever to have a 40-point triple-double. No player has ever had a 40-point triple-double this deep into their career, games-wise. It was the way he did take over the game whenever the Bucks made a mini run to come back towards them. LeBron, to me, it appeared, said, okay, all right, we're going to get this thing back up to 8, back up to 12. And this ended up being, it was a 17-point game with a couple minutes left before the Bucks made a run that was essentially meaningless. Like, to be playing at this level in year 15, when we are seeing around the league younger players, I should say around the league, but on his team and the Warriors, younger players who are dealing with 3 straight finals, much less 7 straight finals, either deal with mental or physical
even if
injury.
you exclude Golden State, this year in the NBA, there's been more games missed by the players than any game in recent history. So it speaks to, forget Golden State, the rest of the NBA, we've seen more guys get hurt than typically. Almost kind of a mirror of what we saw in the NFL this season when we saw all the injuries all the time. Now, not the catastrophic injuries in the NBA, but games missed are very, very important, and it helps tell part of the story where LeBron is right. The reason why I'm not impressed, when a guy averages a triple-double for a month, then he has another triple-double, been like, well, how are you impressed? Well, I just watched a month of triple-double. So I'm not trying to downplay what he did, but it's what I'm seeing almost every night except the 40 points. I thought that was really special.
So we all talk about how what you do in the regular season is one thing. Every team is going to have to step it up a gear in the postseason, no matter what, offensively or defensively. Does LeBron have another gear in him from what we're seeing?
This is the gear.
Is this the gear? This is what we're going to have to see. So this is the best the Cavs are playing right now? Well,
Rodney Hood's out injured. They don't have their first string or second string center. Obviously, they're just now getting Kevin Love back into the lineup. He came back a week early, which was good news for them. That kind of got buried early in the day yesterday with the Ty Lue news. But will LeBron play better than 29, 11, and 10 on 55% from the field and 42% from 3? That's what he's done since February 1. No, I don't think he'll play much better. I don't know if it's possible to play much better than that. But I think what is, to me, so impressive is LeBron had to engage the playoff mode early, and it doesn't seem to be wearing him down at all. Despite not missing a game, despite for the second straight year he's going to lead the NBA in minutes, he is able to just sustain this at a super high level continuously. And CC, you pointed out this article yesterday about a Navy SEAL he's worked with when LeBron was dealing with back issues a few years ago, and one of the reasons that's extended his prime to a level we've never seen a guy in year 15 do these types of things. You said the rebounds and assists don't impress you because you're used to it. He is now averaging a career high in rebounds and a career high in assists in year 15. We are running out of ways to say the word unprecedented because all of this is terrain we've never traversed before in the NBA.
Okay, so then let's just talk about Kevin Love coming back to the lineup. How much does he do, and how much did you see last night? And how much more confidence do you have in this team now that he's back?
I'm not going to say I have confidence in the team. This team can't win with absent of talent. Any NBA team, you add an all-star to the team's going to instantly get better. But when you talk about inside help, Tristan Thompson being out, Nance being banged up and injured, when you don't have another big man, so this was necessary. So when you don't have a big man, let alone an all-star big man, then also spacing on the court. You still have another knockdown shooter. In the 22 games Kevin Love missed, the offensive productivity, LeBron did not get help. As a team, they went 12 and 10, but 8 times he got the productivity of 20 points from a teammate. Now, that's why you want Kevin Love back in. Productivity. The guy is an all-star. All-stars aren't just walking down the street. So Cleveland, absent of Kevin Love, I mean, LeBron's all they have, and they have no chance of winning the championship without Kevin Love.
And what I was most pleased about yesterday outside of LeBron was not just Kevin Love, but the fact that the Cavs found a way not only to win this game, but to score 124 points once again with no production from their starting guards. Corver was okay. George Hill was a 0, a literal 0 in the points category, and that is a storyline to watch. Because
now we're going to watch George Hill.
Well,
have I not been warning you about George Hill?
The George Hill storyline to watch as far as what are you going to get from him in the postseason? Are you going to have to revert to LeBron essentially playing point guard and playing without a point guard? Because if you do that, you are shortening your available rotation from 8 or 9 guys to 6 or 7 guys. That is something you have to watch right now, particularly if the Cavs were to make the NBA Finals, where they're going up against either Steph Curry or James Harden. At least I believe you feel like you're going up against either Steph Curry or James Harden at point guard. Because at this point, any production from J.R. Smith is a bonus. Like, I can't count on J.R. Rodney Hood, once again, has been the bugaboo for his career, nagging minor injuries. Nance, nagging injury this year, and now George Hill with nothing. Those are the 3 of the 4 guys you got in that trade, and Clarkson, to me, is a couple years away from where you could trust him in the playoffs. So that is something to watch as far as this team's ability, not necessarily to make the championship round, but to be able to compete in that championship round.
Here's some we haven't seen in a while. Carson Wentz throwing a football. Yesterday, video surfaced of Wentz breaking his sweat. And you know what I always say, nothing says I'm ready to come back from a torn ACL than a 12-second blurry video on Instagram. Reports are he's still targeting week 1 as a comeback date. CC, should Wentz change his playing style to avoid future injuries?
No, for what? Like, guys get hurt in the league. Tom Brady got hurt in the pocket. Do people tell him to change? No. Carson Wentz is not a scrambler. He is a pocket passer, a guy who's very, very athletic. At the combine, guy ran 4.7. Guy at 6'4", 230 pounds. No, he should do exactly what he's doing. You can't avoid that type of contact at the goal line. And that play that he actually got hurt on, it was unavoidable. There was nothing he could do. There's nothing. He tried to split the defenders at the goal line. He couldn't have went up. He couldn't have went down low. Like, this is the price of doing business in the National Football League. So, no, I don't expect him. I expect him to actually get better. Of course, will people ask the question? Because, yeah, they don't have nothing better to do. But other guys get hurt. What about Deshaun Watson? He got hurt.
Deshaun got hurt in practice. This is Wentz. Wentz was.
But he does run with the football.
He does run with the football. But Wentz was 3rd most in the NFL on designed runs per game as a quarterback, was 5th most on scrambles per game. So he does run more than every quarterback in the league, but 3 or 4 guys.
As a rookie, Carson Wentz had 150 yards rushing. He had 46 attempts. Now, you can't run that offense, the read option, without the quarterback on occasion keeping the ball. That's what makes the offense very effective, because you have a 3-way threat. That's what makes the offense really special. You put the ball in the running back's pouch. You let him fake it. The quarterback pulls it up. Throwing is one of the options, and running is one of the options. So, no, I don't believe that.
Well, CC, you mentioned his rookie at 150 yards, but last year he had 300 on 64 rushes. Like, so they don't. You wouldn't, if you were coaching him, you wouldn't adjust it at all, given the injury he suffered?
They actually expanded the playbook, and they had him running more last year. No, I wouldn't, because it's not going to help him from getting hurt. He's not Randall Cunningham. He's not RG3. Well, I need him to play fast. And when you're playing fast is when you're not thinking about things. Now, he doesn't put himself in harm's way. He doesn't run reckless. He knows how to slide. In watching the games, all right, it's different than taking someone's opinion on a guy getting hurt. When you watch Carson Wentz play, you don't think, wow, this guy's careless with the ball. Wow, this guy's going to have a short career. No, I don't think that. So for me, when you come back from an injury, number one thing you want to do is have your confidence back. So I wouldn't be putting that restriction on him immediately, because I've watched him play. I don't think he plays reckless, and I think his overall athletic ability is what attributes to how good he is as a player.
Just quickly, do you think maybe not design plays, but that he'd be more apt to sort of hold on to the ball than to go out and run it outside the pocket, knowing what happened to him last season? I mean, as an athlete that comes off an injury like this, are you more protective of that injury?
No. I mean, he tore his ACL. There's no way you can protect your ACL. They're going to put a brace on it. You
could limit the amount of scrambling you do.
This is the thing. He's going to be in the pocket anyway. You can tear your ACL in the pocket. You could tear it like Deshaun did, or other players have done. You know, to me, I know what it does to a player's psyche, all right? And a player can't play fast if he's thinking too much. And Carson Wentz is not a reckless guy. So, no, I wouldn't change him.
So then explain this part to me, because I look at I remember the 5th show we ever did, the Monday after the first weekend of the NFL season, because we had watched those games together. And this was before anyone knew Carson Wentz was going to be an MVP candidate in year 2. And I remember saying, listen, I had been agnostic on Carson Wentz going into year 2. I didn't know if I thought he was going to be really good, really bad in the middle. And what impressed me most about him was the plays he made that were off script, where he did avoid the rush.
Yeah, because most people didn't see Carson Wentz in college. Carson Wentz ran the ball a hell of a lot in college. And people don't realize how athletic athletic he is. If you look at Carson Wentz, Google his combine and Cam Newton's combine. You watch their measurables, height, weight, speed, power, explosion, they are almost exactly the same. Carson Wentz, Andrew Luck, and Cam Newton, they're all the same, even though they all look different. So that's the kind of athlete that we have playing quarterback for Philadelphia.
But the distinction between Carson, Cam, and Luck is Cam and Luck, neither of them have lost a season due to a knee injury running the ball. Like
if anyone would have gotten hit that way, they would have gotten hurt. Cam Newton would have gotten hurt if he gets hit that way.
So then explain to me, because this is where either something I don't understand or something that I'm missing. Explain to me the difference between Wentz and why he wouldn't change his style and the mobile quarterbacks that we have heard repeatedly told you have to change your style.
Who told them to change?
What
players are we talking about?
Any of the guys that run around a lot.
Who are they?
The RG3 has to change the style.
He had a slight body. He was undersized, and he was a 4'3" guy. Mm-hmm. Those guys don't last in the NFL. Michael Vick was an anomaly. He made it through. Who else made it through? Randall Cunningham changed his style. Who else made it through just scrambling?
I feel like
Steve Young, he changed to a pocket passer.
I feel right. Well, okay, so there you go. Hold on. So you're saying change to a pocket passer because
he didn't get hurt. He stopped because their system. Mm-hmm. He stopped running the ball as much and became a pocket passer.
So why are we not saying that about Wentz is my question. A guy that was top 4 in the league and rushes as a quarterback.
Because he's not playing a style that I believe is taken away from his ability. Steve Young was not a great passer. He concentrated on his passing so that he could be a great passer. There's a big difference between the two.
So you look at Wentz's injury just a freak accident, essentially. Nothing that his play style is.
I wouldn't call it freak. I would call it playing football.
Right, but it's not the way you don't look at that injury the way we look at injuries suffered by guys that run around a lot at the quarterback position, where we say, well, that's why you can't do that in the NFL. You look at that's not how you view what happened to Carson Wentz.
No, because he doesn't play that way. He's not reckless with the football, and they don't call unnecessary runs for him. I think it's a great balance for what they're trying to do. When you don't have the option of the quarterback running the ball, that's the reason why the offense sputtered with Nick Foles. Because the quarterback, the reason why they run that type of offense is to put the threat into the defense that the quarterback can run. Now, just because he hurt his ACL in a collision where he got snapped between two guys, which all 32 quarterbacks would have gotten hurt right there. So, no, I'm not going to change the style.
I don't think anyone's doubting that all 32 quarterbacks would get hurt right there. I think the question is at least the question.
So if all 32 guys are in this situation.
No. Hold on. There's a difference. All 32 guys would have gotten hurt on that play. The question is, how many of the other quarterbacks would have tried to make that play? Right? The question is, how many of the other quarterbacks would have tried to make that play at the goal line as opposed to throwing it out the back of the end zone?
So now we're going to tell players in the NFL, if you have the chance to make the play, I don't want you to make the play. What do you want him to do?
Well, I don't know.
If you go back and watch that play with Carson Wentz, what was he supposed to do?
I don't know what he was supposed to do. But I feel like we tell guys when Andrew Luck.
I don't.
You mentioned Luck. Hasn't some of the commentary on Luck been he has to be smarter about the hits he takes?
We just say that because we're tired of talking about the offensive line. If they put a competent offensive line in front of him, Andrew Luck wouldn't have gotten hit like that. But because the offensive line talk is not sexy, let's tell Andrew to speed up his clock a little bit. But that's mismanagement from Indianapolis, the players they've drafted, the players they've put in front of him, and the overall lack of running game. How many games has Andrew Luck had a 100-yard rusher?
I don't know.
Not a whole bunch.
We should also mention the Eagles they signed Michael Bennett. Michael Bennett's very excited. They should be happy Carson Wentz is up and throwing again. Mm-hmm. So we're going to talk a little bit about what this means. The Eagles coming up a little bit later. But up next, the Texans added a big piece. But could they actually be contenders in the AFC? Next on First Things First. Sam Darnold's pro day is set for Wednesday. Rain expected in the area, but Darnold said he'll throw regardless. He's such a trooper. CC, you expect weather to impact Darnold's pro day at all?
No. Plus, he has no choice. When you don't throw at the combine and your pro day is scheduled, that's the last day NFL teams can see you work out. When you go for your team visit, each team can bring in 30 prospects. You don't get to work out on those days. You get to see the facilities, meet with the people, but the rain won't affect them. But, interesting question. High school seniors out there, why doesn't USC have an indoor facility? With all the $1 million alumni, they got all the pro ball players.
That's exactly what
I had an indoor facility when I was at Ohio State in '84. Now, they need to get with the times.
So that's what I was going to ask you. Why? But why don't they? Is it just because it's sunny and no rain in LA 360
No, they don't have
days
the
a year?
facilities. Their facilities overall are subpar. They just upgraded them. They just had a huge campaign to upgrade them, but they're one of the teams there's a powerhouse that they don't have the facilities, so they lose recruits based on things just like that.
Wow. It's unbelievable. I didn't realize they didn't have an indoor facility until this story came out yesterday. Like, you're going to have to throw in the rain. Why can't you go inside? No inside, I guess.
Line of the day. No inside, I guess.
Yeah, no inside.
Double overtime action in the NBA last night. The Heat beat the Nuggets 149-141. Seems like a random game. Nick, why is this such a big deal for the Nuggets?
Nuggets going to miss the playoffs, man. And when they miss the playoffs, they're going to look back to this game. They are now 2 losses behind the Timberwolves for the 8 seed, 1 loss behind the Clippers for the 9 seed, and the 9 seed doesn't even get you in. Their defense has been an abomination. Jokic is an extraordinary offensive player, but he gets abused on the defensive end night after night after night. To lose to a shorthanded Heat team in a game you have to have, and a game that doesn't really mean that much to Miami. Miami's locked into the playoffs. They're going to be the 7 or the 8 seed. Like, to lose this game when you have a chance to win it at the end of regulation, and then at the end of overtime, and then at the end of double, you can't have it. So when they miss the playoffs by a game, they're going to look back to last night.
That Western Conference, we knew someone would be left without a chair. Who's it going to be? Potentially the Denver Nuggets, but it could have been any of those teams. The Pelicans, the Timberwolves, Utah. All those teams, it's a sad story, but I think that Denver is the least talented of those teams in the West.
Absolutely.
Moving on to the Cavs. Kevin Love made his debut after being sidelined for nearly 2 months with a hand injury. Came back, scored 18 points. He had 7 rebounds in a win over Milwaukee. Cece, what'd you think of Kevin Love last night? How did he look in his return?
I really enjoyed it. Kevin Love's a guy that's really into fitness, too, so it was nice to see him on the court. His body looked in good shape. We know only through his revealing it that he dealt with some anxiety things, but for me it was good to see his smile on the face, him going into the locker room. Seemed like he had a little bounce in his step. I like Kevin Love as a basketball player. I know people there in Cleveland really like him as a person. So anytime you add an all-star, they got the rebound advantage last night. Wow, they didn't get killed in points in the paint last night. A lot of that is because of Kevin Love and him coming back.
And that's all those points in the paint rebounding stats are despite no Tristan Thompson, no Larry Nance. The threes he hit were big threes as well. People have probably seen the one that was from about 30 feet out. But it felt to me every time Milwaukee was making a run, either LeBron scored 4 in a row or Kevin Love hit a big 3. He also seems to be having fun. We couldn't play the clip because it's so hard to see, but it's going viral on the internet. At one point, he gets knocked down on a three-pointer and does like a backstroke up the court, laying down for reasons someone needs to ask him about. I don't quite understand it. Love had a good time.
Happy.
And it was his first game with the new-look Cavs. They looked pretty good.
Finally, the Sixers beat the Hornets 108-94. Ben Simmons had a triple-double, including 15 assists, no turnovers. Simmons became just the 3rd NBA rookie to do that. Nick, how dangerous can the Sixers be if they get to the playoffs? Well, in the playoffs.
Yeah, in the playoffs. They can be a problem in the first or second round for most teams. Because what they have right now is Ben Simmons, who, yes, he's a rookie. When you see 15 assists, 0 turnovers, no rookie's done that in 20 years.
Amazing.
And it's only been done twice in the last 35 years by a rookie. He's an odd rookie because he had the redshirt year. And now he's 70 games into year 2. So he's obviously not a veteran, but he's not going to be stunned by the bright lights of the postseason. So you have that at point guard, a 6'10 point guard. You then have Embiid, who is a matchup problem for every team in the league. Every team in the league, aside from some teams that aren't going to make the playoffs, like the Clippers. Yeah, you know what? You could put DeAndre Jordan up against him and see what you can do. The Pistons, you could put Andre Drummond up against him, see what you can do. Well, those teams aren't in the playoffs. When you look at who Embiid could be going up against in the first or second round of the Eastern Conference playoffs, that is going to be a matchup nightmare for whomever they draw. Now, Philly could go as low as they are right now, the 6th seed. They also theoretically could jump all the way to the 3 seed. They have 30 losses. The Cavs are 3 seed. They have 29 losses. So we don't know what that matchup will be, but nobody wants to draw Philly in the first round. I promise you that.
I know Philly don't want to draw Cleveland in the first round either, because you talk about Ben Simmons as a point guard, point forward. He'd have to guard LeBron James. Correct. They have no answer for LeBron James. So right now, as we stand, Cleveland 3, them at 6, Cleveland's going to give them the business in the first round. Now, yes, they are promising. He did have 15 assists, no turnovers. Yes, but playing LeBron in their first playoff experience, this would be a quick trip to the playoffs for the 76ers.
But let me ask you something separate. If the Cavs either fall to the 4 line or if they don't draw the Cavs in the first round, let me put it like that rather than go through the different machinations. If they draw Washington in the first round, I think the Philly would be a favorite over
Depends
Washington.
if John Wall comes back. Is he totally out because of John Wall? Because I believe they can give Philly problems, too, at the point guard. All right? They would have a problem with John Wall in the pace. The one thing I want to watch in the playoffs, I know you've talked about Joel Embiid and the mismatch. What I'm concerned about is NBA refereeing. They do not give the big man the benefit of the doubt. If you're on the perimeter, you cannot touch a guy. In the paint, they allow you to hammer, push, and everything. I don't know if he can dominate a game with the playoff style. I don't think they're going to let him dominate the game. Based on the way the refs call the game, he's going to get fouled not quite as often as other perimeter players. So in that, it slows down the offense. The ball doesn't stop moving because right now, they don't isolate him on the box a lot. So if he was to play against Kevin Love, how's he going to dominate the game with the style for which the referees don't call it? And that's not a style that Philly does not say, get on the box.
No, they want to go.
We're going to throw it in you 20 times. If that was their style, I would be more concerned. But they kind of play into the opposition's hands by allowing him to play out on the perimeter, which for Kevin Love or Tristan Thompson, that would be to their benefit.
That's a good point. All right, let's go back to some football. Don't look now, but the Houston Texans could be pretty good next year. They signed former Cardinals defensive back Tyrann Mathieu yesterday to a 1-year, $7 million deal. Okay, now you can look. He joins a defense that features J.J. Watt, Jadeveon Clowney, and Whitney Merciless. Mathieu says he's excited for the opportunity.
Well, I just want to prove my point that I'm, one of the best safeties in this league. Obviously, I had some setbacks. I had some challenges, and, I try to, take those challenges head on. I just want to come to a group where guys were hungry. Obviously, I'm very hungry at this point in my career. I wanted to come to a team that had great potential, a team that was dominant on defense, and I think I made the right choice.
All right, CC, if the Texans are all healthy, how big of a contender are they?
Oh, absolutely. They're in the mix. I mean, if you talk about the AFC South, Jacksonville dominated that division last year. We got Luck that was out in Indianapolis. We got Frank Wright going to be his coach. I expect Luck to be back and for them to be back in the playoff picture. Tennessee made it as a wild card team, losing in New England. So to think Houston is not as good as Indianapolis or better and Nashville, absolutely they are. So we know that. He made the right decision because he went to a team that can rush the quarterback. All right? I don't care if guys are hungry. If you don't have no guys rushing the quarterback, the Honey Badger's not going to be best suited in that situation. Their offense, if they can stay on the field and have some type of ball control, we know Deshaun's going to come back, and they're going to be prolific throwing the ball. Will Fuller, Nuke Hopkins, DeAndre Hopkins there, they have one of the most explosive offenses if they're able to find a running game. So, to me, I like this signing. What if they add a guy like Adrian Peterson late? He's from outside of Houston.
Where he wants to go.
If they can get him for cheap, add him to that roster. Houston is a team that I believe for the first time in Bill O'Brien's tenure there, that they can reach their potential. They can get after the quarterback. Jadeveon Clowney, in the last year of his contract, they're going to have to sign him to a monster contract coming off his most impressive year so far. So, yes, Honey Badger, I thought, made a great decision going to Houston.
When you look at the Texans, we don't talk about the Texans a ton, but I'll mention a team we talk about a lot. The Dallas Cowboys, they're like the opposite of them. The Cowboys have this awesome offensive line and this great running game with weaknesses on other spots of the ball. Don't have dynamic receivers. Don't have defensive players who are like, oh, my God, what are you going to do? The Texans have all those things the Cowboys don't, with one of the least accomplished offensive lines in football. And as of now, if we're talking about bringing in Adrian Peterson, that gives you an idea that, it's Alfred Blue and Lamar Miller. And Lamar Miller right now, he's playing on a big running back contract, but he has not matched his production that he had in Miami. They have real questions up front on offense. But man, oh man, this defense, the key word is healthy. If healthy is terrifying. People forget they lost Whitney Merciless last year as well. He only played 5 games with a torn pectoral. He was a double-digit sack guy. He led the nation in sacks coming out of the University of Illinois. Clowney is one of the best two-way D linemen in football as far as tackles for loss and quarterback pressures. He's been a much better run defender than I thought he would be. And then there's J.J. Watt, who, when healthy, is Defensive Player of the Year.
But the when healthy is not in small fonts.
No. I mean, JJ's played 8 games in the last 2 seasons.
No, he need to change his style.
I don't know what he can do. Like, because if you look at JJ's 2 separate injuries, like the reason he lost the year 2 years ago, he had back surgery. Then last year, I looked it up, tibial plateau fracture. So that means the top of his shin bone, where it connects to the joint, that's what broke. Those are 2 major injuries. And where a guy who had been an Ironman, had played every game of his career or every season of his career without missing a game, to only play 8 of the last 32, it's a big but, without even mentioning their starting quarterback has now torn an ACL in both knees, coming off the left ACL tear in college at Clemson and now the right ACL tear at practice as a pro last year.
If healthy, do you put this defense up with the Jaguars, Vikings, Eagles? I mean, some of those caliber defenses.
Their secondary is not as good. Their front is good. Their linebackers aren't as good either as Minnesota's linebackers. Minnesota's got better linebackers in a good secondary. Jacksonville has decent linebackers, very, very fast, good in run and pass situations, and an extremely impressive secondary, especially their corners. So there's a little difference in how those teams match up with Houston.
The Texans spent their free agent money this offseason on that secondary. They added Aaron Colvin to compete, probably to take the spot of Jonathan Joseph, who has been playing forever in this league. And then they also added Tyrann Mathieu. Now, by the way, Matthew's another guy that we have to put if healthy. The reason he's available for only $7 million a year, I believe, is because of the concerns about his health. Because when he's out there and playing, he's to me, a dominant, multi-purpose guy that can cover you in the nickel, that can play safety. He can do everything you want your safety to do. If Tyrann stays healthy, to you, does that raise the secondary up a notch? Because it does to me.
Of course, with the multiple offenses, not being able to guard the tight end and the running back, he's the best strong safety that they have. His versatility and what it brings to the defense. Also, let's not forget, he's one of the best blitzers from a secondary position that we have in the league. So you have all that heat that they can bring with Clowney, Merciless, J.J. Watt, and then now you got a guy that can come off that nickel slot and be able to put pressure on the quarterback. I think it's exciting things for the Houston Texans.
There's a lot of question marks with all those injuries. Either they're going to be super healthy, or
I don't know how you change your style as a defensive player. As a defensive player, it's a little different. What are you going to do? Call
Dusty, you hear that?
Or they're going to be, I have a joke. Or they're going to be the Warriors.
And we'll get to it next time, Jen.
Yeah, because that's what we're going to talk about. Are the Warriors rushing back Steph Curry too soon? It would have worked really well if the whole sentence was one sentence as opposed to 8 fragmented ones. That's next on First Things First. Here on First Things First, we are now joined by former NBA All-Star and champion Antoine Walker.
Nice to see you, Antoine.
Hey, Antoine, thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me on the show.
All right, did you hear about the Warriors? Because they're suffering from a bad case of, everyone got hurt. Steph, Clay, KD did not play last night, and Draymond didn't play the second half in a loss to the Spurs. Warriors are reportedly targeting Friday for Steph Curry's return from ankle injury. He's tweaked that ankle multiple times this season. So, Antoine, with all these injury concerns, you still think, or do you think the Warriors are better than the Houston Rockets heading into the postseason?
No, I don't think they're better than the Houston Rockets. And there's a number of reasons why I think that. I think, one, Houston is doing something that we haven't seen in the last 4 years at Golden State. They're going to make them play on the road. Game 5 and 7, important games. We haven't seen it. And also, Houston roster's gotten a lot better. The best roster Golden State can put on the floor is with Draymond Green at center. Houston can play five small guards now with P.J. Tucker, Trevor Ariza, Bonamute. They got some small guys now. They can play 5 guys with Draymond Green at the center, with him at the center spot to match up. And then also, you got to like the fact that they got another playmaker in Chris Paul. You know, it takes a lot of pressure off James Harden when you got Chris Paul who's having an exceptional year who can create too. So I like where Houston's at right now. I believe if they get home court advantage, they can actually beat Golden State.
And they got it now. The home court is over. I mean, Draymond after the game said we're locked into the 2 seed. So, I mean, Houston's going to be the 1 seed.
I want to go back to a person you mentioned because I think that we talk about him, but maybe not in depth. Chris Paul. Like, who is Chris Paul? And what are we going to see that's going to be able to allow this Houston team to be able to get over the hump? As a former NBA champion, as a guy that Chris Paul looks like one of those glue guys. What is it about Chris Paul that you believe is a tangible thing that gives them an edge?
Well, knock on wood, hopefully he stays healthy. He doesn't get hurt over these next couple of weeks. If he goes in healthy, he should have a chip on his shoulder. He's yet to play in the Western Conference Finals. He's yet to play in the NBA Finals. So he should be motivated. He should take this challenge on personal. This is the best team he's played on. So I look at that situation. And then he's having a great year. I mean, his three-point shooting has been incredible this year. I've never seen him shoot the basketball like he shot it this year. He should have been an all-star, but he wasn't. He missed so many games early in the season. So I just think he's got a chip on his shoulder and he's ready to go.
There's one other aspect of them having Chris Paul that in the matchup against the Warriors is so critical. Who's Steph guarding now? Like that is the thing. Like when the Rockets and Warriors have played in the past in the playoffs, Steph doesn't have to guard James Harden. Clay guards James Harden, and Steph guards Eric Gordon's a good player, and he guards Eric Gordon, or he guards Patrick Beverley, who is not an offensive threat. You can hide Steph on the non-offensive guard you could have in the past and not have to worry about him being a liability on defense. If you have Chris Paul and James Harden, which they do, as they're starting backcourt, Steph got to guard somebody. You can't put him on a 3, obviously. They'll just back him down. So who is Steph going to guard? Because my guess is he'll guard CP3. That's not a good matchup for him.
He probably start off, but I think they're going to hide him. I think he's going to guard Trevor Ariza. And I know this doesn't sound like the most likable matchup.
No.
But Trevor Ariza is a guy that's going to spot up in the corner on the offensive end for threes. I think they're going to try to hide him. I don't think you can – Houston, you can't just change your identity and just try to feature Trevor Ariza in the post. So you're going to continue to put him out there. But I think they're going to hide him.
So if they put Steph on Trevor Ariza, do you then think Clay would guard CP3 and Durant would guard Harden? Like, because no. I'm just curious, in that situation, I'm trying to think in my head.
Let's go to the best lineup Golden State can have.
Oh, with Iggy out there? Okay,
with
sure.
Andre Iguodala. So just think about that's the lineup that's going to play. That's going to play the bulk of the minutes. So that's where you're going to see us. He can hide him in that lineup. Because I'm looking at that's the only way you can beat Golden State. You got to be able to play against their small unit with Draymond Green at the 5. That's where they've been the most successful over the last 4 years, is him at the 5 position.
There's one other way to beat Golden State, and that's if none of these 4 guys come back. So do the Warriors need all 4 of their stars in this lineup to win a title, do you think?
Oh, without question.
No doubt. Yes.
The West is totally different. You know what's kind of crazy? I mean, neither one of these teams better hope Oklahoma City don't end up playing them in the playoffs. Oklahoma City is going to be a tough out.
Yeah, they trending right at the right time.
I don't like anybody else in the West to put pressure on them but OKC. When you got 3 dynamic players like that can play and they can score the basketball in a playoff series where you shorten the rotation, I like OKC against one of these teams to take them at least a deep series, like 6 or 7 games.
So you think if they were to, you think Oklahoma City in the second round is a tougher out for one of these teams than Portland?
Yeah. I'm interested in the game tonight. Obviously, you got Portland playing Houston tonight. Both teams on winning streaks. Portland's won 13 in a row, so it'll be interesting to see how that matchup goes. But Portland still lacks they don't have a 3-man. You know, they got a great center, they got a great backcourt, but when you get to the 3 and 4 position, they struggle in that position. So when you get into a playoff series, I don't think they can beat Houston or Golden State. But OKC, Mark, remember I tell you this, OKC is going to be in the mix.
You mentioned at the very beginning that Golden State is going to have to go on the road for games 5 and 7. They're also going to have to go on the road. I always focus on the beginning of the series because what we've never seen is Golden State having to start a series in a hostile environment. I'm trying to think, in the last 3 years, have they started a series? I think only the Memphis series where they lost game 1. The Memphis series, I know they were down 2-1 in that series, but typically they start at home, they get out, you know what I mean? They're up in the series, and you're chasing them throughout. How much does starting the series on the road, if anything, matter to you?
It means a lot. I mean, you can go down 0-2 is tough. I was in the finals down 0-2, but luckily the format was different. The format was 2-3-2.
Yes.
So it's different now. So you go down 0-2, and they never faced that type of pressure. You got to put Golden State in pressure that they never faced before in order to take them out their comfort zone. They've had the easy road for the last couple of years where they've controlled everything. Now they got some injuries. They got to try to get guys back in shape. You don't know how long these guys are going to be out. This is going to be a tough road, a tough championship for them to get this
Are you
year.
worried about them? Are you worried that these guys aren't going to be ready when the postseason starts?
Yeah, without question, because you hurt. And you obviously now you don't have no practice time. You're not going to practice right now.
Right.
So everything is going to be little bike work, walkthroughs, just getting shots up, and you're not going to. And the intensity goes to another level come playoff time.
When KD comes back, if you're playing against a guy who you know is coming back from a rib injury, how does that? Is it a little extra bumping? What do you do as a player if the guy you're checking just came off a rib injury?
I played in a different era. So
the real NBA.
My era, we're gonna put pressure on him. We're gonna bump him and do all
He'll
those things.
donkey kick that.
But now I think Kevin's tough. I mean, he's not been a guy that's been injury prone throughout his career. Obviously, he had his foot injury, but he's played. He'll be tough and be ready for that. But I think obviously you got to put pressure on him. You got to be physical with him. You got to try to take him off his spots. But I don't think he's going to see that to the second round. And obviously, if they get to the Western Conference Finals.
All right, Antoine, stick around. We got more coming up. How does LeBron James keep getting even better in year 115? That's next on First Things First. Back here on First Things First with Antoine Walker. Cavs home last night to host the Milwaukee Bucks. They were without their head coach, Ty Lue, who's on medical leave of absence. They were with their shot in the arm, Kevin Love, finally back from a broken hand. But the story was, as the story has been, LeBron James. LeBron nabbed his third triple-double in 4 games to help beat the Bucks 124-117. And for LeBron, what a line. 40 points, 12 boards, 10 assists, and a whole bunch of optimism heading down the final stretch. So, Antoine, I ask you, how impressed were you with LeBron James?
I've been impressed probably the last 20 games. Just incredible how he's been playing. But last night, obviously, to get 40 points and the triple-double has just been amazing at the level that he's playing at 15 years into the league. I played against LeBron, came in 2003. I played 5 years against LeBron. And to see where he's at right now, I can't even put words to it. I just never seen this before with a guy 15. Usually you decline. His jump shot's getting better. He's scoring the basketball more with ease when I'm talking about 15 to 17 feet in with the fadeaways. He's not necessarily posting up a lot. He's not a great post-up player. But besides his free throw shooting, everything is unbelievable where he's at right now.
When you played against him those first 5 years of his career, the book on him, I don't want to say was easy because he was a first-team All-NBA guy by year 3, but the book on him was make him shoot. Go under the screens on him. If his jump shot's on, he's going to have a big night. But otherwise, that's your one hope, is make him shoot. Now that, aside from January, he is shooting for the year over 40% from 3. He's always been super high efficient near the rim. How do you guard him now when his jump shot is, I believe, the best it's ever been in his career?
You got to see if you can get him to take 10 jump shots. I mean, which is tough to do.
Absolutely.
Because he's so headstrong as far as getting to the basket and getting where he wants, getting to certain spots on the floor. But I would go under his pick and roll, and if he makes 6 or 7 threes, you live with it. But when he's able to do everything and get triple doubles, I think he's got like 16 so far. When he gets around you, he makes plays so easy, and obviously in transition, he's the best player we got in the league.
Yeah, and also the rebounding. Because of the rebounding has been so consistent, and they've changed their philosophy. When he was first in Cleveland, very, very athletic. People would force him to shoot, but he's still one of the best players in the league just on athleticism and the basketball knowledge that he had. When you're able to get the ball off the glass, you can start at one man. And we saw that last night a couple times. You got a one-man fast break. LeBron understands the game better. He understands where he needs to get to, and before defenses can set up, he can get an easier shot compared to in the half court. So for me, LeBron, he understands the game and is playing a lot smarter. And when you trade away Kyrie, you have to assume some of those playmaking duties.
That's why he has 16 triple doubles, because Kyrie's gone. He's handling the ball much more than he ever had to handle in the last couple of years with Kyrie being there. So obviously the assists are up, but he makes everybody better. I mean, he's not playing with dynamic scores. And he's gotten these guys playing really, really well, and he's able to get 10, 11, 12 assists a night.
The distinction I'll draw is even before Kyrie left, the triple-doubles thing started last year. Going into last season, his first 13 years in the league, he had 42 triple-doubles. Then last year, he set his career high with 13. This year, he's setting a new career high with 16. This is the part of LeBron's career that makes the least amount of sense to me. The year 14-15 part of it. Because I did think we were going to see that we had seen the peak of LeBron in Miami. And that first year in Cleveland, it looked like, okay, he's still the best player in the league, but he's slightly on the downtick. The second year in Cleveland, he absolutely looked like he was on the downtick until those final 3 games of the finals. But since those final 3 games of the finals when they won the championship, last year, he set his career high in rebounding and assists while leading the league in minutes. This year, he is breaking those career highs, setting new career highs in year 15 in rebounds and assists, while again leading the league in minutes. The durability's always been an outlier insane, but the ability to improve this deep into his career is unlike any athlete I've seen in any sport ever.
Yeah, and then you got to think about what's special about this year is that the changes that they had to make on the roster, and he's still playing at a very high level. I mean, they had a monster trade, and he was playing great before the trade. Now when he makes the trade, he's still playing great, and he's had more injuries this year than he's ever had.
To his teammates, yes.
To his teammates to deal with, and he's been the one consistent guy, and he's playing at another level. It's nothing negative you could say about him. He's probably the MVP. James Harden's going to probably win the award because of the wins and loss situation, but he's probably the MVP this year.
Antoine, there's this thing that happens in football that even if the Patriots aren't playing well when Tom Brady steps on the field, other teams are just intimidated by nature of what his history has been and how successful he's been. Even in year 15, does LeBron still carry that with him? I mean, do guys that are on the court just feel like, oh my God, it's LeBron James, regardless of how many years he's played, how old he is right now? Does he still sort of carry that same intimidation factor this long?
Oh, without question. I happened to be reading some of the newspaper articles this morning, and Giannis said that he's the best player in the world. He couldn't believe he's the only guy to score 40 points on him, and he's 15 years in the league. He can't stop him. He's long, athletic. He could be the ideal, typical person that should be able to stop LeBron. It's just unbelievable where he's at right now. I can't put words to it. To be 15 years in this league, you see guys usually decline. He hasn't declined a bit. He's steady going up.
Giannis it's interesting you mentioned Giannis, because obviously they played the Bucks last night. LeBron, Durant, Giannis, in my eyes, are the 3 best forwards in basketball. Like, Durant and Giannis are going to battle for that other first-team All-NBA spot. But, I mean, those are your 3 best forwards in basketball. LeBron this year, there's no team he's played better against than the Bucks. Giannis is an excellent defender. Giannis is the one checking him. Yet, against the Bucks, 33 points per game, averaging more against the Bucks than any team in the league except for Washington. And then Washington has an outlier because he scored 57 against Washington in one game to skew it. Shooting 58% against the Bucks. That, to me, is indicative that, as we have seen throughout the years, LeBron typically does have an extra gear to go to. He usually reserves that for the postseason. He seems to have been hitting that gear against the Bucks and Giannis, maybe for a reason.
To me, he plays against Giannis the same way he plays against Durant, because the overall size, they are at a tremendous disadvantage. Now, to me, Giannis might be a good defender, but he's not a good defender against LeBron. The reason why, LeBron can draw him away from the bucket. LeBron can post up on him. And there's nothing when LeBron gets a head of steam that Giannis can do. So Giannis is just a young pup. LeBron is the guy. And LeBron, every time you face that guy, it's like Randy Moss. When we got him into the league, we used to have another corner across. We had Darryl Green one time. I said, man, you got to send a message to the rest of the league today. He's like, oh, why is that? I said, because they respect Darryl Green. You run past Darryl Green, the whole league will know that Randy Moss is for real. So LeBron, I believe, takes that matchup personal, and with them being in the East, he sends a message to Giannis every time.
I would say he takes it personal. That might be one. LeBron knows who's the best players and the up-and-coming players that he has to go against, and that's his way of letting them know that it's still my league. I'm still the best player. You still got to wait your turn. And I think he takes that personal. That's something that motivates him on a game-in and game-out basis.
How much better do you think the Cavs got last night getting Kevin Love back in the lineup?
Oh, they got better because obviously he gets another guy who can stretch the floor. You got to remember, Kevin Love's an all-star in this league. He can average 20 or 10. He's going to help them get out of the Eastern Conference. Now, whether they can win an NBA championship, that's a whole nother story. He's yet to prove to me that he can play well against Golden State, against smaller lineups. But in the Eastern Conference, he can definitely help them get over the hump. I think when they get Rodney Hood back and everybody's back and playing, they'll be fine. You know, when Larry Nance and Trenton Thompson come back, they'll be able to get out the East because Kevin Love can get you 20 and 10, and he's played great in the playoffs up until they play Golden State.
So you mentioned there, you just as an aside, they're going to be able to get out of the East. Toronto is 52-18. They have the second-best point differential in basketball. They are a half game behind Golden State for the second-best record in basketball. Their bench is outscoring opponent's bench by 30 points per 100 possessions. A lot of people feel this is a different Toronto team than the ones in years past that have gotten into the postseason and gotten washed out. Where do you stand on the Raptors versus the Cavs, assuming now that Kevin Love is back?
It'll be a long series. I like LeBron James in Game 7. I just like LeBron James. I believe it's going to be a long series because Cleveland struggles to play up there in Toronto. Toronto's a very good home team. They play well at home. But I like LeBron James in Game 7.
And any chance they have in the finals against Golden State or Houston, barring LeBron doing what he did those final 3 games against Golden State?
I'm worried because he don't have, if you look at LeBron's history, he had Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, 2 guys in their prime that were capable of getting 25 and 30 points. You saw Kyrie Irving, what he was able to do over the last couple of years with LeBron. I don't know if nobody on that roster right now can help LeBron at the level that he's going to need when he goes against Houston and Golden State. I just don't see it. I know Kevin Love is good. He can get you 20 and 10, but in the past, he hasn't played good against Golden State.
Big Blue, Basketball Nation. You in Atlanta this weekend watching your squad?
Of course, we get on the Final Four, baby. It's wide open. Hey, we got Arizona to lose. We got Virginia to lose. It's wide open.
Your guys' bracket opened up. You going?
Okay, yeah, I got to make sure I get your number because I'm going to Atlanta on Friday. So I need them to win Thursday so I can go Saturday.
Kansas State. Don't do that.
Oh, just
Antoine,
looking
thank you so much.
Just Sharpie them into your Elite Eight, says Antoine Walker.
Coming up, did the Broncos make a mistake sitting out the Kirk Cousins sweepstakes? Next on First Things First. Thank you. It's a new topic here. Rumor has it that after all the courting the Broncos apparently did with Kirk Cousins, they never actually extended an offer to the free agent quarterback. It was reported that Broncos GM John Elway knew the price for Cousins would skyrocket as teams began bidding, and he wasn't going to compete. So Denver signed Case Keenum, their plan B, to a 2-year, $36 million contract. CC, what do you make of the Broncos not going after Cousins with a firm offer?
Everyone's got a salary cap. Denver's already spent some big money on some of their players. This does not fit into their business plan. Regardless if you need a quarterback or not, they couldn't afford to pay someone $25 million. So why use all that energy, Von Miller and them? A lot of times, the players don't know what's going on in the front office. All these guys courting Kirk Cousins. Hey, come here, come here. They hadn't talked to John Elway. They didn't know what the quarterback market would be. And also, you had the Jets out there who were on the record as saying Kirk Cousins could really name his own price here. People in the business knew that the price was going to be around $30 million. So John looked at it. They can't afford a quarterback paying them $20 million. That's why they got Case at $18 million a year at 2 years. It fits into their budget because they need offensive linemen. They need a running back. I mean, they need some help on that football team. This is not a championship team absent of a quarterback. This is not Jacksonville where Blake Bortles playing for them. No. This is a team that has many holes besides the quarterback position.
That's the key. Is this team, are they better than the Jets? Yes. But they are not a quarterback away from competing for a title. So this is something, by the way, I have been critical about John Elway's drafting of quarterbacks and his evaluation of quarterbacks. This is a smart decision that I applaud from John Elway. And it's not because I don't think Kirk Cousins is a good player. I understood why the Jets, with $80 million of cap space, prior to making the trade with Indianapolis, which they wouldn't have made had they signed Kirk Cousins, they had 4 picks, 3 picks in the top 40, plus their own second rounder next year. Like, I understand why the Jets would say, we'll give you $30+ million of our cap. We're going to reload through the draft anyway and still have money to sign free agents to build a team. I understand why Minnesota would say, it might be a tough pill to swallow in a year or 2 against the cap, but we think we can win the Super Bowl this year. We think we can be the best team in football this year, but Case is leaving. Bradford, we can't trust his health. Teddy has been out of football for 2 years. We need a difference maker at quarterback. The Broncos, if the Broncos had signed Kirk Cousins to the type of deal they would have had to give him to sign there, because, by the way, if the money's even between the Vikings and the Broncos, you're going to Minnesota. It's indoors. It's a better team. So if they would have had to pay more than Minnesota did. And then you're in the NFL purgatory. Right. You're in this spot where you're not going to be awful, but you're not going to have enough money to improve your team enough to be able to compete for a championship.
If it's not Kirk Cousins, if it's, say, Drew Brees or someone else, do you figure out a way to find the money?
I would. They didn't make an offer for Drew Brees. They could have called Drew Brees. They don't have the money. Sometimes, regardless of what the NFL and what the salary cap is, it's not fantasy football. You just can't pluck a player out and just put them in. How they've built this team and the reason why they got in Super Bowl contention were the players that they had. They have more good players than the Jets. That's why they're up against the cap wall.
So it would have been absolutely financially impossible to have a guy like.
I mean, they would have had to they would have had to do either something with the contract, whether it was Cousins or
They would have had to cut
Brees.
Demaryius Thomas. They wouldn't have had no offense. Drew Brees wouldn't have went there.
Yeah.
All right, because they don't have him in the block for him.
But this is why, by the way, these last 2 years are such a missed opportunity. Because these last 2 years, where the defense was
for the Broncos,
right. In my eyes, for the Broncos, because I think the defense was better 2 years ago than it was last year, and I think the defense was probably better last year. Finished, I think, 6th overall in total defense. Then we can expect it to be next year. The not having any plan at quarterback the last 2 seasons, when you were 2 seasons ago the defending champions, when you were last year, you had felt like, man, we were through 11 games 2 seasons ago. We were in the playoff picture before it fell apart. To just have a hope and a prayer at your quarterback situation for Denver, to me, is a big wasted opportunity because I don't think you're going to. They already lost Aqib Talib. I don't think you're going to see that dominant defense the way we had gotten used to the last few years in Denver the next couple years.
Yeah, I thought the window closed at the appropriate time. When they had Peyton Manning, the way they had their defenders, they had just signed Von Miller. They had gave Chris Harris Jr. money. Talib, they had given him money. They had signed most of the Derek Wolfe. They had signed him back. In that 2-year window, they went to 2 Super Bowls. They won one of them. So, to me, I think they accomplished what they wanted to. After Peyton Manning left, that defense was not as good, and they haven't been as good. So, I don't think it was a missed opportunity. The quarterbacks didn't perform well. They didn't have the money to be able to recap that offensive line that's been bad for several years. So, this is a team that's had multiple problems outside of their quarterback.
So given the cap situation, was Case Keenum the best they could do? I mean, do you think they are in the best situation they could be in? Or do you think they're still looking for a quarterback in the draft?
I mean, for $18 billion don't get you what it used to. I mean, they got what they could get. And if you're going
That's a ringing endorsement. You get him, Case.
Well, tell me what Case has done. Tell me what he's done.
Okay, well, he took the Vikings to the NFC Championship game.
Well, what about the Vikings with Teddy Bridgewater? Teddy took another team against Seattle. They missed a field goal, should have won that. Well, this is a better Vikings team than what Case had.
You mentioned Teddy Bridgewater. Now that I know what the contracts were, that I know the guarantees in Teddy's deal, $500,000, 1 year, $6 million deal, and I see the deal Case Keenum got, I think the best value quarterback on the market was Teddy. Like, if you're asking me, would I rather have the deal Case at the deal he signed?
Meanwhile,
or
Teddy's
Teddy
the one that's probably going to be out of a job with the New York Jets since McCown's.
Let's just let all that play out. Like, let's let it play. We don't know what they're going to do. Like, I don't know if Teddy's going to be the odd guy out. Because at that number, like, what do you? It doesn't hurt you just having him on the roster.
I want to let the audience know what Jen was alluding to. The details of McCown's contract came out yesterday, and to me, inexplicably, they fully guaranteed his $10 million.
Josh McCown's
deal with the Jets. We then know also, when they trade all those picks to move up to 3rd in the draft, we would imagine they are going to draft a quarterback. Now, you can still keep 3 quarterbacks, but if they only keep 2, if they were to cut Josh McCown, you're still paying him as if he were on the team, which is what Jen was talking about.
There's a reason why the Jets are in the basement, because they're making decisions like they make.
Man, I don't understand that at all.
Coming up, how much will Ty Lue's absence affect the Cavs moving forward? Talk about that next on First Things First. I'm Jenna Wolf, and thank you for listening to the First Things First podcast. Make sure to subscribe and tell your friends, family, and coworkers about the podcast, which, by the way, is available on iTunes and all your favorite podcast apps. You can catch a fresh new episode every Monday through Friday on FS1, starting at 6:30 a.m. Eastern, 3:30 a.m. Pacific. So long, everyone.